All right, so going through the answers of week of January 21. So all of these are going to be small blind, big blind. Yeah, I think in all of these, villains and small blind, heroes, a big blind. We threw bet the small blinds open, and then they call, and then we go from there. All right, what do you guys think about this one?
Well, I'll start. I think that kings are not within range because I'm pretty sure the kings would check the turn. So that's my opinion on that one.
Do you mean check call the turn? Because
I wouldn't have. Yeah, they would have checked raise.
Hero is in position, so.
Oh, hold on.
I just think it has more checking EV on the flop. I mean, on the turn.
I think we use a smaller size on the flop with pocket kings. It's blocking everything.
Yeah, that too.
All right, so we've got some good arguments for why kings is not within range. Do you think any of the other hands could also not be within range? No? All right, so only pocket kings. What do you think about the rest of them?
Ace king is a call. Gotta get out the 10-9 out of the way.
I think the 10-9 is the call.
Yeah, 10-9 is a call. Ace king, because we are holding ace of a spade, could end up being indifferent at some point because we are blocking the possible bluffs on the turn from villain. Check raise range. So ace king could be indifferent, ace deuce is a fold, and 10-9 is a call.
I agree 10-9 is the call.
It is a weak flush draw, but because we have a gut shot with it, we still could beat better flush draws that villain is bluffing with.
All right, so roughly how much equity do we need to call?
But yeah, it's purely about equity here and pot odds, right?
Okay. Let's see how much you
Yeah, I mean, if you're drawing, yeah. If you're going to call this all in with a draw, then it's all about equity and pot odds.
Yeah, my idea was 10-9 is a pure draw here. So there's no bluff catching there. And so you should fold if you don't have the odds. I think you don't have them. I didn't calculate.
Probably good idea to calculate it. So basically, how much you need to call, and then how much is the pot after you call.
This is like 20-ish percent equity here with 10-9.
So you need to call 55 to win the 200. The 200.
We need 27.5.
So do you think that's the case with 10-9 against
Oh, I see.
various hands which may shove?
Like I would have thought that these two would be the caller fold because it's the bluff catcher here. And depending on maybe villain's tendencies, you're gonna choose what action you take or RNG it.
We cannot. That's right. We can. I mean, if we could have a flush draw, like how about Queen 10? If it was Queen 10 of a spade, how we're gonna like fold it? This one we need 27, 28% equity to call. And I don't know. So 10 high, I don't think it has this 27% on the turn. So it is a tough fold. But we gotta fold. The good thing about ace deuce is that it is not blocking.
All right. So how many outs do you have to like a nut on your nut hand when you've got the 10-9? So you've got
Only 4.
3 queens for the straight, and then you've got
9
for the flush.
Yes.
So it's 12 over
44.
Doesn't have quite direct equity, but what do you think about the entire range that could be showing here? You think you could just like be good, like against some hands?
His shoving range is going. His best bluffs are the flush draws. He doesn't have the draws.
This is a draw to beat a pair, so or 2 pair or better basically. But what about if he's showing, say, the nut flush draw? Then it's quite different, isn't it? Got 10 outs instead. If you're shoving the bottom straight flush draw, then you're really well ahead. So you got to think about the entire range that could be shoving here. So it is pretty close just looking at the raw equity, so the raw draw strength. But it's just that if you can beat some hands that will shove, then it becomes more of an immediate call.
I think he's probably shoving like top pair, maybe 2 pair like King Jack, but maybe like 10, like a gut shot as well, and maybe like pocket 2s or. I think it's pretty tight. It's fairly tight shove, but it should be balanced. So there's definitely like 10-9s in there and gut shots.
We're also looking at hands where the villain called on the flop. So how does that change his overall? Like he didn't raise it on the flop. So is it like less about the lower straights and more about the jack?
Less straight, you mean? What do you mean?
I mean,
Well, the SPR is around 5 on the flop, so he has time to get the money in with his sets. So it is not like a single raise pot that he should check raise most of his sets. He could be slow playing some of them because the SPR is small. He can get the money on the later streets. So he could have sixes or deuces as well on the turn.
Which he probably wouldn't want to shove because he wants to get more money in the pot. Doesn't want us to go away.
Well, if he's gonna call on the turn, I think the right play should be shove because he's gonna call the turn. The SPR is gonna be very small, so he's gonna do it with some of his king gigs and the sets. Because if he calls 54 plus 36, plus 36, 90, and 82 min high, minus 27. So SPR would be half. It would have 55 big blind behind on the river. And the pot would be 90 big blind. So I think on the turn is the time to shove.
So yeah, we established that Will's going to be showing some strong hands. So if we just focus on 10-9, so we're going to decide what we want to do with that, whether we want to call it or fold it.
I think 10.
And Will will be showing some worse hands.
I think we call it. I think we call 10-9. I think it has the best potential. I mean, if Villain's calling with King Jack, then if we call with Ace King, we're worse off, right?
No, so this is just a Pottle's calculation here. So there with 10-9, you got 27.27% chance of hitting a straight or a flush. So, you've got that much equity against Villain's value range, something like 2 pair and sets and stuff. Maybe some top pair. So you got that much equity guaranteed against the value range. And now you just have to think about whether you have how well you're doing against the bluffing range, whether you're doing better than the 27%.
So we got to know what kind of bluffs he has. The bluffs he has shouldn't be having many showdown value on the turn and should be strong draws. So the bluffs he has, he could have 7-8. What kind of queen hands he has? He cannot have queen 9 suited, queen 10 suited, because we are holding 10-9 suited. I'm 10-9 of a spade. So the flush draws with no showdown. Can anyone come up to some examples? We beat them too.
Like Ace 5.
It could be, it could be not flush draw for sure. And then 7 high flush draw, 8 high flush draw. We beat them. And we lose to ace high flush draw. I cannot come up to anything like queen high flush draw because queen 10 we can have it, queen 9 he can have it. Queen jack is not necessary to do this.
All right. So how much equity do you think you have against the bluffing range?
If he's in ace high, then we have 8 plus the pair outs, 10 outs. I'm sorry, 3 outs to the straight and 6 outs to the pair. 9 outs. So 9 over 44, which is like 18%.
Yeah, so you got 18% against not flush draw, but what about against the other bluffs?
We are ahead of them. The other bluffs should be
So you
8
have
high
like
flushes.
you have like 80%, 80, 90%. So against the overall bluffing range, how much equity do you think you have?
20,
the overall bluffing range?
Maybe 50%.
Yeah, maybe 50%. Okay, and so what do you think the bluff to value ratio is going to be like?
Wow, that's a tough question.
Well, he put 55 into 205.
Sorry, mate, your mic's really quiet.
Weak,
Turn
yeah.
it up.
Is it better
He's gonna need like what, three value hands? Is it three value
Yeah,
hands?
I mean,
One?
it'll be something like that. Not it doesn't have to bluff too often, but basically, if you've got 27.27% against the value range and you got 50% against the bluffs, and the bluffs make up even like 5 to 10, even like 10% of his entire range, then it pushes you over from 27.27% up to like 27.6 or whatever. So it doesn't have to be bluffing very often when you've got 50% equity against the bluffs in order for this hand to be a call. So put it here.
Wow.
All right. Now the other two.
Well, I think the ace two, like we said before, is pretty much a pure bluff catcher that's could be call or fold, almost indifferent. So
Right.
so by elimination, I guess ace king's the fold.
Yeah. The issue with ace king just blocks a lot of the bluffing range. I'm sure it blocks some value with like king jack, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of ace high flush draws in there. Doesn't make it quite so good to do that with.
Wow, that's interesting.
All right, have a quick look at the sim. So there's your ace king. So without the flush blocker, same up call, but otherwise with a flush draw blocker, you fold it. There's 10-9. For comparison, there's queen 9. So I encourage you to try and figure that out. What else is there? Oh yeah, ace 2. Different.
Nice.
This is sort of what the shoving range looks like. So fair amount of top pair. This is part of the reason why ace king is nice to call, because it beats some of the value.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've got the spade, it blocks a fair amount of the bluffs, right? And so you end up just losing.
What is he bluffing with? The flush draws he has?
There you go. You've got
The 5 high and the...
you got 10% of the nut flush draw, and then 20% the other flush draws. But when you've got 10-9, you block some of those flush draws. So with
Right,
the
so
10-9,
he has a lot of not flush draws that we are blocking with our ace king.
yeah. So you end up blocking 10% of his, end up blocking like half of his bluffs,
Mhm.
which is not nice. All right, next one. This one's the same sort of deal. So we three bet.
There's something sneaky with 8-7 there. I think 8-7 is not in the range. Because we have a chance to barrel the turn with 8 high, which is very profitable.
We make our straight on the turn, and we have 3 to the straight on the flop. That's what confused me with this one.
What I'm saying is that we don't check back 8-7 that often on the turn.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So it shouldn't be on the range, because otherwise there's no point. If it's on the range, the snap call is the nuts.
Right.
Guys,
Right. On that wet board, we would bet the turn with the straight.
Yeah, the bluff should be the straight flush draw, straight draws, and the diamond draws we picked up. These are the flush. I don't know why 6-5 is not betting here, or maybe 6-5 is not in the range.
yeah, guys, I'm pretty sure 6-5 suited is not in the range because you would not check back the turn. 6-5.
Okay.
Like a very faint
way.
voice.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just type today, King.
Yeah, 6-5 is a better candidate to bet on the turn rather than 8-7 because of the more equity we have compared to 8-7. We have a gut shot and a flush draw, and we have 6 high. So 6-5 diamond is not in the range. 8-7 makes sense to check back on the turn now because it is just a very small, a weak straight draw.
So 6-5 would have bet on the turn.
6-5 is a better candidate to bet on the turn rather than 8-7 because it has more equity.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So 6-5 is not in a range.
Yeah.
So that's a type of spot where you have so many bluffs that you have to choose the best bluffs.
Especially on the turn because only one card to come. We want to go with the higher equity draws. So it's very good, better to go with the flush draws.
So is this to say that we're gonna bet all of our value because we have so many bluffs to match them?
That could be possible because when on the turn the back door becomes front door, I see a lot of large sizes appear on the solver, especially when we have double flush draw on the turn. Very large sizes appear, and this can tell you the frequency goes high as well. So yeah, we got a bet aggressively on the turn. So Jack 10. Ace King is a check back. Ace King is working good as a check back because
Showdown value.
showdown value. If we hit our overs, we could be good. But if we bet and get called, then there's not necessarily good if we hit a king or ace on the river. We cannot necessarily be good. But if we check back and we hit ace or king, we could be good.
Yeah.
So ace king is check back. Jack 10 can be a check back sometimes, can be a bet sometimes. So if the guy goes all...
It comes back to the 6-5 is not seeming right to be within the range.
Yeah, so we know then 8-7 is a snap call. Then we gotta know Jack 10, what's happening with Jack 10. What is he repping when he goes all in? Yeah, I think we got a fold ace king. We got nothing. And we call with Jack 10. Huh?
Where, on the river?
On the river, Jack 10 is indifferent, call or fold. And 8-7 is, of course, call.
Yeah.
6-7 is not in the range. And ace high is a fold. Yeah. Marcus is right.
All right, so I'll give you guys a hint.
Wow. Then we're gonna be... We check them back.
So that is to say that you have to bet this hand on the turn all the time.
I'm positive their bet 6-5 and 8-7 are bet with some frequency on the turn. They could be checked back as well. They're bet with some frequency for sure.
No.
No?
Neither of those hands are ever bet on the turn.
But why? Okay, so we will see what are the bluffs on the turn.
Do we agree the 8-7 is definitely the call?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Jack 10 is not in the range.
Look, what bet size would you use on the turn, and then what happens when you get jammed on if you have either of these hands? So if you think about on the turn,
So on the
you're
turn,
probably going to
SPR,
be betting fairly big, like half pot, 3/4 pot, something like that, right? Because the 10 is actually a pretty nice card for you. But if you bet with either 8-7 or 6-5 or Ace King of Diamonds, and then you get jammed on, you end up having to call.
It's a catastrophe.
It's not very nice for you.
oh, you know, I was confused with the single raise part, Thomas. I see we bet large with the draws on the turn, because the chance of getting jammed on is smaller. This one is 3-bet pot, SPR is smaller, and we could get jammed on. So we don't
Yeah.
want to bluff with them.
Yeah.
Right. We want to bluff with something like a gut shot here. In case we get jammed on, we let it go.
Yeah.
Got you.
Oh.
Wow, beautiful.
Okay, so the 8-7 is the call, the Ace King is the fold, and the
I see.
6-5 is the call or fold.
Right. Thomas, can we be the small? Can we have two sizing on the turn with Jack 10?
No, here goes 3/4 pot. Most of the 10s do. Yeah, what do I want to show you? Yeah, but basically, you want to be a fair bit more polar. So, like, look at where Ace of Diamonds is. It's like right in the middle. Sorry, I mean, all the 8-7s. They're like here, and like 6-5, 6-3 of Diamonds. It's like up here. Ace King of Diamonds is like up here. Right, if you were to bet it and then you get jammed on, like even Ace King without the diamonds is a call. 6-5 would probably definitely be a call, and then the 8-7, it's not so nice.
Are we betting all the 10s on the turn?
So it's not nice to have to bet fold so much equity when you got 8-7, and then like bet calls when you got the 6-5. It just doesn't sit well, you know.
Then what are we
Sorry.
bluffing with? What are the bluffs with on the turn?
So all the overcards can bluff. So single overcards. So here, king high, queen high.
Can we see the
jack
type
high.
of flush draws? What kind of flush draws we bet?
So if you look for this 3/4 bet size, like the value type hands is definitely the top pair, so the 10x. Obviously, that's a small amount of the other pairs. There's a fair amount of just ace high and 1/1 under type hands. Like there you got a bunch of jack 7, king 8, queen 7, king 5. Like these hands here. Look at it here.
We only bet 4% of the flush draws. I mean, we have tiny amount of flush draws on the turn we're betting with.
Yeah, so like there's not a lot of flush draws that you want to bet here, but because you just end up having to call them if you get jammed on.
So,
like and it's not super important to have the flush draws in the betting range, because when the flush does come in, first of all, it's not super likely. Say we had this instead, he's just going to jam the flushes into us, and then we're going to check back a little bit, quite frequently due to the 50% rule. Yeah, it's not super important to have those very strong draws in the range.
can I see
in the betting range, because the SPR becomes very low.
Right. We bet the flush draws we're gonna bet call with.
And then his betting range for the jam is like top pair for value, and then whatever is bluffs. So yeah, remember that if you're in villain spot, if they check back like this, and then the river's a pretty nice brick, you can just shove top pair if you made it somehow. Yeah, any other questions about that one?
The flush draws we bet are the flush draws we are gonna bet call with.
Yeah, so a lot of these would bet call. Some of them would bet fold. Most of them will bet call. Oh yeah. So here, this is all the flush draws. They almost all bet call. So they've got a fair chunk of equity, like a lot of them having overcards and gut shots and stuff. Here the exception is Jack 3.
Right. Wow. Ace King is what the not flush draw that checks back on the turn. Because I saw Ace Jack was bet.
Yeah, in terms of the flush draws, definitely the weaker ones. The other advantage is that with these ones, if they have flush and straight draws as well. So when the undercard does come for these cards, you're going to get jammed on by the top pair that are in your opponent's range, just as it happened here. So here at 8-7, it's pretty nice to check back instead of bet fold, because when you check back and you do make your hand, you're going to get jammed on by your opponent's top pair. Yeah, you're going to get bet into very frequently when you've got these lower hands here, these low flush draws and straight draws, and when they're complete, you get bet into a lot. Yeah, any questions about that? All right, next one.
Well, I think tens is the fold. Just doesn't really have much going
How
on.
about Ace Queen? No. Let's get to something that is not in the range, because that's the misleading one all the time. We will see which one is not in the range.
We better fold jacks because we block a flush draw. I prefer call with tens instead of jacks here.
What are his bluffs? What if his bluffs are like Queen 10, Jack 10? Jack 10 is a devil gutter. But I hear you. You don't want to have a spade when you want to call. Which one is not in the range? I think Ace Queen could be a check back on the turn, because what worse hand is going to fold when we bet with Ace Queen on the turn? What worse hand would fold?
Well, first, we have to figure out what villain calls the half pot with.
You could have many things, flush draws on one pair hand.
Yep.
So again, we don't want to get jammed on. We gotta choose something that we can either check call, bet call. You're betting 3/4 of the pot on the turn, so the chance of getting jammed on is high. So we want to bet with something that we can bet call.
Would ace 4 bet smaller on the flop?
On the flop, I don't think so. It is one of the worst aces we have.
I'm just not sure about the sizing for ace 4 on the flop.
Would you try to bait a raise here and shove on top of it?
I think because it's a 9 high flop, most of the sizing goes to the half pot.
Yeah.
because this is not a good flop for the 3-better. So the size should be a little bit larger.
Well, okay, yeah.
Because we should check more. That's why
Yeah,
when
yeah.
towards
Is that applicable with in the 3-bet pot, you think?
I know if it was the ace high, we bet with a lot of our range is small. And the worse it gets, we check more and the sizing goes higher.
Yes.
So if it's the ace high or king high, we bet a small with high frequency. And if it is 9 high,
Yeah, it's kind of like I only see ace queen and ace 4 possibly not being in the range. Tens and jacks for sure are in our range, and the betting sizing and the check on the turn make sense with the tens and the jacks.
I think ace queen, because of the backdoor flush draw, could be bet on the flop, half pot,
And checked on the
and check on the turn. Because, again, what worse hands he folds if we bluff with ace high, ace queen? Maybe small pocket pairs, probably. But we have decent equity if we check back and we hit a pair.
See, on the last question, we didn't. We wanted to check back ace 4, a hand like ace 4 on the turn, because we don't want to get re-raised with it.
We can bet call. I mean, we established that we are gonna bet with flush draws that we can bet call. I don't know if ace 4 we want to bet call with it.
Do we check with ace 4 on the flop?
We could check back sometimes too. I see that.
Because it's not a good flop for our range. And I don't know what part of our range exactly bets half pot, but maybe ace 4 is a check, because we're doing a lot of checking on this texture. See, now I'm down to thinking the tens, the jacks, and the ace queen all make sense, but there's still something about the ace 4 that seems like it maybe shouldn't be there. I just can't put my finger on it.
All right, so we have some good reasons why ace 4 is not within range. Yeah, probably doesn't bet the turn. If you bet the flop, it doesn't bet the turn. So
okay.
So ace 4 is sort of protecting the checking range since it's a very strong draw.
Then if they are in the range, then ace queen is a fold. We play ace queen like this and we get raised. You have no option other than folding. And then between
what bluffs are we getting raised with?
Maybe the jacks are the fold.
See, I have a hypothesis, but it doesn't make sense for the ace queen.
For what? Here's the thing. We gotta see the equity, right? We gotta see how much equity we have. We might beat some of his bluffs with our ace high, but we'll get crushed on this value. And I don't think we get the equity, enough equity to call on the turn with ace queen.
Well, what's his value?
His value could be a king. Somehow got there, like or
Ace king.
king 9.
Does ace queen block much value? Does it make it block? Do we block enough to make him bluff heavy?
I think equity is the more important. Equity versus his all-in range is more important. Yes, blocking effect comes into play as well, but it's the secondary thing. He shoves.
all right.
Cheer.
So
Right.
think about what they're shoving for value. and then think
Okay.
about what they're shoving as a bluff, and then that's how you calculate your equity. All right. So the equity when you get shoved on like this is not just linear to the strength of the hand.
So we don't want to bluff jacks, a spade, no?
So
And there's
give us some thought. What are they going to be shoving with for value?
shove
For value.
jack queen of spade, jack 10
No,
of
for value. He's asking for value.
sorry.
King 9.
Okay,
Set pair,
a set of sevens with a
set
seven of
to
spades.
pair. Yes.
Does he have one pair king hands? Maybe. I don't think he's floating with king high, naked king high out of position on the flop. I don't think he have top pair, unless he's top pair flush draw, which he rather calls. Yeah, so two pair. At least he's gonna have two pair plus.
Do you think he will shove the king queen? Because you don't
should
want a river.
He should with king queen. Do you think he has king queen a diamond? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So the only king queen is king queen of a spade. That it plays good as a check call, I think, because it is blocking our bluff, which is the spade draws, and also our value.
So the small blind has
So
king
you
queen
don't call
suited.
with
King queen
or
suited through
spade
king
or
ace.
diamond.
King queen a diamond. I don't think king queen a diamond is gonna check call like that on the flop. It is a losing call with king high. It is good to know how he plays king queen of a spade. And also, I had a question: if we bet with jack 10 of a spade on the turn and we call the shove. This is what I want to see. Let's write it here.
Should he float with one spade, king or jack of spade, king jack off with
On
one
the
spade?
I don't think so. Out of position, half pot
Yes.
bet.
Because you have backdoor flush draw, the 2 overs. Backdoor straight draw.
Maybe he could do with some ace highs, like ace queen with one spade. But king high is kind of crazy.
I prefer to float with king jack, I think so. With 2 overs and backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw.
Okay.
We had decent out.
King jack, king 10 maybe.
Yes.
I think that makes jacks like a caller fold.
That's right, because we have a spade and tens should be calling.
No, 10 should be folding. But I know that makes no sense because ace queen is not something you call, but by process of elimination and its blockers, you know what? It's too ridiculous for me to say it, but but by process of elimination, ace queen is the call, like just the ace high and the queen, because I think it interacts with villain's range that gives us more equity because it blocks so much of its value hands.
I don't think, man, ace high is gonna call right there. If he's shoving with ace 9, let's say if he check shoves with ace 9 or a strong 9, don't you think jack and 10 are gonna come to the calling range because we beat some of his value? So the question is that how he's playing ace 9 here or queen 9. I mean, good 9x. I hear you in terms of blocking his bluffs, but that is one part of the equation. We gotta see the equity versus his value range as well. if he's shoving with some of the values we are thinking of, ace queen is dead. I know it is not blocking his bluffs, but it outweighs the losing to the value he has, outweighs the unblocking his bluffs.
Yes, but we will win when we hit a queen.
It's not many outs.
Versus queen 10 versus queen jack.
He has king X, or hitting a queen isn't going to help us.
Yes, because ace queen is a color fold. We had equity versus his bluff, not versus his value range.
But jacks don't block his bluffs at all. Really? Well, they do.
Jacks
They do.
do. I mean, jacks. Especially these
Okay, so
combo.
so discuss about. So what do you think the value range looks like?
I would say king 9 and 9x, and of course this sets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna disagree that he's gonna have sets here. I don't think he'll have two pair either. Just because when the flush misses, you're always going to get jammed on essentially. When you call, so if villains call like a set of nines, set of sevens, set of twos, whatever, or king nine, if you just calls this bet and then it's like a brick, which is going to be like a lot of the time, you're going to get jammed. It's going to get jammed on a high frequency. Or if the flush comes in, then you can actually probably just lead jam. So just because the SC power becomes very low.
Right.
So that sort of solves his problem when he's got a set. He doesn't have to make this check raise because when it's a brick, he gets jammed on by you.
Can you say
and
why?
When the flush comes in, he can just jam the flush. He can just jam a set into you.
Why he gets jammed on with high frequency if flush doesn't come on the river?
Just because then you've got way more
value, like king X.
Yeah, strong hands than he does.
Okay.
A lot of his calling range is going to be flush draws, a fair amount of it.
Then, if he doesn't have sets, he's going to have two pair and.
Well, the same sort of thing can be said about two pair.
Okay, so then 9x, he's shoving with 9x.
Why would he shove with 9x?
Like ace 9. Why?
Okay, well, can he have a king?
I'm trying to see what kind of king he could have.
So he could have plenty of kings with a backdoor flush draw. Can float the ball. And a good chunk of them can shove here on the turn. So his value here is like king X with a single spade, or with two spades. So all of his hands can shove here, because when the flush does come in, not quite as easy to get value by shoving your flush. If you got like king jack of spades or whatever, if the flush comes in after they call, right? If you don't shove the flush, you're not going to get called very often. So the hand like king jack of spades is strong enough right now to go for a value shove, for a thin value shove. All right, so understanding that, so they got a bunch of king jack of spades and king 10 of spades, king queen spades, king queen, and with a spade, without a spade, whatever, right? So a fair amount of all that. So that's what the value range looks like. So the jacks with a spade can block some of that value, blocking king jack with the jack of spades. 10's not quite as much.
Holy shit.
Ace queen is pretty good because it dominates all the bluffs. So all the bluff jams here are going to be like queen X of spades, ace X of spades. So it dominates all of them. It blocks a little bit of king queen, and it also has 3 outs against king queen. So yeah,
So ace queen is the call.
ace queen is the call, and jacks is call or fold, and tens is the fold. All
Nice.
right, so let's have a look at that.
Can we say 110?
That's ace queen.
Why 10 was the fold?
You want to have the spade because it slightly blocks the value range. Right, so here this is what the value range looks like. So it's a lot of top pair. Bunch of like king, queen, king, jack, king, ten of spades, and other king ace hands with a single spade. All those hands can just shove here for as a for thin value, also to protect against getting shoved on the river. But the like 2 pairs in the sets, they all just call, right? Because of what I discussed. If the flush does come in, say you call and there's a jack of spades, like these sets can just shove. And if it's like a jack of clubs, right, you check and then you get shoved on by so many hands. Specifically with like 9s and 7s, you block the hands which end up checking back. So, right.
Can we see what kind of king high villain floats on the flop with, please?
Sure. Basically a bunch of stuff with a single spade. Doesn't float all the time. Some backdoor type stuff. Right, not a whole lot.
The flush draws are obvious, but okay. So
yeah, so like king, queen, queen with a single spade, king, jack with a single spade sometimes, king, 10.
How about king, queen,
Really?
or diamond? King, queen, or diamond
Yeah,
also.
king, queen, and diamond. It's quite obvious because if king, queen with a single spade, right? King, queen with a backdoor is pretty nice.
Okay, so
ace jack and stuff.
So can I
do a fair amount of floating,
one thing?
but
If
not
on the
floating a
turn
whole lot.
is hero betting jack 10 of a spade on the turn because of the low SPR or checks it back?
No, for the same sort of reason here. So if we go back to it, so this is what the betting range looks like. Jack 10 of spades is not betting it for that size. If you do want to bet any of these flush draws, you can bet it for a smaller size because you're going to get jammed on side less frequently because it doesn't have as much incentive to jam these top pair hands. And then you can start to consider folding the weaker ones.
Got it.
Also, after it goes bet call, there's a little bit more stack depth remaining, so that when you do hit your flush, you get slightly more value. But if you pile the money here in on the turn, when you make your flush, you don't get that value on the river, at least not as much. So that's why you either go for a smaller size or you check it back. So S4 here either goes for a smaller size or checks back. All right, this one.
Wow.
Well, at first, I thought King 5 was the one not in the range because it's like a blue one on the chart. It's like a marginal 3-bet to start. But having said that, I'm pretty sure we check the flop with it. So I'll start by thinking that King 5 is the one that's not within the range.
Is there any merit with betting with king 5 on the flop? I don't think so too.
No, I don't think so. Not for half pot.
There is no backdoor possibility.
Nothing.
Maybe one of those weird bluffs that solver decides to go with. No equity bluffs.
I don't think so, because that's like you said before, with that type of flop, it's sort of a neutral, and I think we check a lot, and I think King 5 is pretty easy check there.
Well, look at the flop. If the flop villain doesn't have any two pair, which he won't. Okay, I don't know. Jams on the turn.
All right, so what are we thinking about King 5?
It's not within range.
And why is that?
I think it's because of the texture of the flop. I think we check back a fair amount there, and I think King 5 would be a check there. I just don't see value in building the pot with that hand on the flop.
Look, sure, that's one reason. So it might or might not bet the flop. So, but here when you get this turn, it definitely bets this turn. So that's why it's not within range because it always bets a turn, not because it's anything to do with the flop.
Okay.
It'll sometimes bet the flop. Obviously not all the time because of the reasons you talked about. But when it does hit this amazing turn, it's always going to bet.
Well, are we gonna like bet all our kings on the turn? Because this is one of the weakest kings we could have.
Yeah. So that's another reason. So basically betting almost all of our kings.
Okay. Wow. So if you're betting almost all our kings,
Just
then,
because it becomes pretty difficult for the opponent to have too many kings themselves. So yeah.
then if we bet all the kings on the turn, then we check back, then the top of our range would be 10x, because we don't have any king when we check back. So if he goes all in, I think Jack 10 is better than Jack Jack.
Why is that?
Because it is blocking possible two pairs. That villain
yeah,
goes
okay. But what about like blocking some one pairs? You don't think you can just jam one pair here since you don't have any kings? Like if you don't have any kings, or if you very rarely have a king, you kind of just like jam.
Oh,
Ace 10.
10x. Oh, I see. Wow.
So Jax is a good call.
Yeah, so hopefully I can get my mic in, but Jax is a pretty clear call here, I think, because the villain could be jamming 10x, so you beat some value range.
Yep, agreed.
Then Jack 10 is your bluff catcher, call or fold, and 9s is the fold.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. All right, I'll show you guys this one now.
Is my mic working again?
Yeah, that's great.
sorry.
So yeah, here top pair, or they all bet, like all of them. There's no real reason that you need to have any top pairs in your checking range, just because villain doesn't have that many top pairs in the checking range themselves, because they can't have had that from the flop. All right, so like look at the flop. They fold almost all of their king X, right? All the king queen folds, all the king jack offsuit folds. Only things that really continue are the ones with the two overs plus the back doors, right? So quite rarely will villain have a king. So the king is pretty amazing for you. You're betting at a very high frequency. All of your king X are betting, essentially, because like they're quite nutted at that stage. Checking back, the villain can shove their king X because you don't have any king X, so they don't block any hands that might call like at all. So yeah, there's not too many blocker effects that you can have. A little bit of ace 10 can jam as well for value, and because of that reason, Jack's a slightly better call than Jack 10. But yeah, otherwise it would be the other way around because of the Jack 10 blocking some of the two pairs that jam. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's important things to know about these sort of boards, these sort of runouts. And this one is actually very similar to one of the earlier questions.
Yeah, so far, I mean,
we bet the flop and then an overcard came and then we check back and we get jammed on. Like it's important to understand how we construct the turn betting range and what that means for our checking range. Sorry, do you have a question?
no, I'm good.
All right, ready the next one.
I'm pretty sure Jack 4 is definitely in the range here.
I think kings check the flop a little bit more than the queen has the heart. I think the king check the flop with the ace on there. I think if the queens didn't have a heart, they'd check the flop too. But I'm pretty sure the kings would check that flop.
All right, so we can think about which hands are not within range. Yeah, flop check, flop bet, whatever. But in terms of getting here, right? So these hands, which hands are not within range? So it's mainly got to do with which hands always check the turn, always bet the turn.
I think ace queen should bet all the time on the turn because it is blocking the not straight that could get raised with.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So on the flop, you want a good variety of hands. So especially in the 3-bet pots, there's going to be more variety of hands which bet. Obviously, kings and queens might not bet at a high frequency, but they probably do bet at some frequency. So yeah, so think about when you get here, what's villain's value range, and then how do you respond to that?
So
right. So what's the value range? What's the bluffing range? So and then yeah, go from there.
I'm pretty sure that
ace 6. He could have like 2 pair aces up, and of course
Jack 10.
Jack 10. Some not straights. Check. Yeah.
Okay, so we agreed on a value range. So it's going to be a fair amount of straights.
Stuff with a queen and with a queen or a king in them.
So it's going to be a fair amount of straights for value, some 2 pairs for value, sets if they have them. So that's what the value range looks like. And then the bluffs, what do you think the bluffs are going to be?
Are the busted flush draws?
Yeah, there's not too many of them. What else could there be?
Gut shots?
What gut shots?
Like
There is
Queen X and King X?
Yeah, how do they call the flop?
Yeah, it is. It should be a pair and a gut shot, which like Queen 10. No, they're not gonna call the flop, right? They may call with the diamonds. That they have diamonds.
So yeah, I mean, Queen 10 and all that is fair enough to call a flop, but they're not going to jam the river because they've got a pair.
Yeah.
Or they've got a decent pair. So if you think about hands which are going to want to jam the river, they're just going to be the hands which can't check call or don't want to check at all. So what might they be?
No. So he has busted flush draws.
I think busted flush draws are not good to jam for him.
I know he should check raise his flush draws with high frequency.
All right. Okay. So when this line happens, what bluffs are there?
One pair hands.
Yeah. So if you're bluffing, if you have to bluff one pair in order to get enough bluffs, then for sure you're going to be bluffing the missed flush draws.
So the one pairs you could have is King 10 of diamond.
Yeah, it's probably not necessary to bluff a pair that strong. So if they think about the basics, so does he have a 4 he could bluff with instead? Does he have a 6 he could bluff with instead? Right? Does he have other pairs weaker than a 10? All of those could bluff instead of a 10.
Like pocket pairs lower, like
Yeah,
No, he called
definitely.
the
So
flop.
yeah. So if he could definitely call the flop with a pocket pair and then take this line on the river.
Wow.
So some 4x can do
The
this as well.
4x that makes sense is the 4x of heart.
You have to list them. So like 6-4 suited, 6-4 hearts maybe, 6-4 of clubs, 6-4 of spades, all those. Yeah. Actually 6-4 is 2 pair, but whatever. So 5-4. Of course, 6-4 is probably gonna jam. If it does jam, it would be closer to value. All right, what else? Yeah, so in terms of the value range, straights and 2 pairs, and then in terms of the bluffs, it's just going to be junk from the bottom of the range, missed flush draws, very weak pairs, pocket pairs, that kind of stuff. So knowing all of that, which of these hands makes a very nice call?
King with no heart. Very nice call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely king with no heart.
Jack 4.
Why do you think Jack 4 is good?
Pairs.
Yeah.
What is it?
Because of his value, if he's well, it's gonna Jack 4.
That's what I had
blocks
in my mind. Is he gonna shove 6-4? If he shoves 6-4, we gotta call with Jack 4.
That's not necessarily true, but
Jack 4 is gonna block his bluffs, right? And so he'll have more value hands.
Jack 4 is gonna bluff.
Yeah, this stuff.
yeah, I mean, you have to think. Yeah, so Jack 4 might block a few bluffs as well. So think about all of these, and then which ones block the this amount of value. Actually, I think this should be Ace Queen of Spades.
I think this combo of Ace Queen should bet on the turn. We still don't know which one is not in the range.
Yep. So this combo queen should bet on the turn. So the fact is, you want some protection against a. Actually, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But basically, you can get called by a jack and a 10, and you double block king queen. So it makes for a nice bet on the turn check river type hand. So that's why this combo of queens is not within range.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, kings is a great call.
Wow.
All right, call or fold. So this one, ace queen. If it didn't have the heart, it would be a very nice call because it blocks some of the two pairs which shove, as well as the king queen which shoves. But because it's got a heart, it slightly blocks the missed flush draws. So that's why you get call or fold. And then Jack 4 just has the weakest blockers out of all of them. Doesn't block too many two pairs, and does block a fair amount of bluffs. So you can fold that. So that's that there. So in this one I swapped hearts with spades just to make it a bit more interesting. But basically on the turn, queens almost always bets, kings almost always checks.
How about ace queen?
Ace queen goes about half the time. What's not within range? Is this queens. So we check back. The jamming range looks like this. Bunch of straights. It says in two pairs. Straights can definitely jam because you don't have any straights. Right. So the moral of the story, if you guys haven't figured it out yet, is that you can be perfectly fine in lines like this, jamming like 3 times a pot in the 3-bet pot when you're out of position. If you just know that your opponent is super capped. The jamming range looks like this: straights, sets, 2-pair, jam, and then Jack 4, not so nice, but ace queen a little better. Queens not there, kings without blocking the flush draw.
Thomas, why do we bet queen with such high frequency on the turn? What we check
so
back
here, if you look at it, you're blocking this king queen, which is like all of the raising range from the opponent.
Okay.
And you're also blocking with ace queen, which is nice as well. So then you're quite a bit more likely to get called by a worse hand, so like a queen jack, king jack type hand, and you also get to fold out some of the top pairs.
Ace queen has this merit, these benefits as well.
So
Ace queen.
so queens here is like this blocker. It's like a mergy blocker bluff. It bluffs off some of the stronger hands in terms of the weak ace x. Gets called by some of the jack x and 10x with the with a draw, and it has good blockers against the raising range.
Okay.
There you go. Queens goes for that bet 3-bet. If you get raised. But to be honest, there's not much difference between just getting shoved on and then you can call the queens. All right. Check. Showing 17% of the time just because very, very capped. This is just an absolute brick. There's a variety of different other rivers that would be much better for Hero's checking range here because it's very much a brick. Lots of shoving. And so, if you get into this position where you're in a threat position and then villain checks back the turn, be prepared to just shovel it in for 3 times a pot. Totally reasonable to do. All right, any other questions about this one? No? All right, go next one. All right, here we go.
The sneaky Jack 10 again here. Raise or fold. Wow. I see Jack to raise or fold on the turn.
All right. So once again, what do you think the what do you think the value range is? And then what do you think the bluffing range is? So that's really the main question here. There's obviously going to be some other stuff to think about. But what's the bulk of the value range?
King, queen.
Yeah, there's not going to have too much king queen. So king queen probably doesn't want to raise, just because it's very difficult to get called by too much worse. Because of how it blocks all the top pairs. So what else?
Queen 9.
Yeah, I mean queen 9. I'm not sure if it's that strong.
Is he gonna raise with his straights, or he's just gonna call them and then call the river too, or pocket 5s or pocket 9? This is the thing that is confusing. That I don't know when we check raise with our strong hand, when we check call with them. So it relates to how the river is gonna be played.
Yeah, exactly. So here a set or like a two pair hand, particularly a set of 9s, can call, and if the flush comes, you can just shove. It's a little bit different here because the bet on the flop was quite small compared to here, and here the bet on the turn is quite small as well. So the SPR on the river is going to be actually quite large if it's just going to be a call. But definitely, if you have a set,
Right.
then you can lead the river. If the flush comes in, and if the flush doesn't come in, you just go for a check jam, or you're going to get jammed on yourself. So the main thing is that sets quite nicely block any like shenanigans that they can do with like middle pair type hands. So like they can't really, hero here can't really bet a 9. And then check back the river because you're basically always losing. Yeah. So set's pretty good for that, in the check call range, because you're going to get jammed on a lot on the river. And then you can just pick the rivers. So like rivers that complete draws, you can donk, and then rivers that don't complete draws, you just check and then get jammed on. Cut type of thing. But in terms of the raising range, yeah, definitely villain can raise us straight. It doesn't have quite that sort of appeal because it doesn't block as much. Also, it's a bit stronger. All right, so say villain's raising all of the Jack 10 for value. So then what do you think about the rest of the stuff? So villain's raising the Jack 10 for value. They're going to have some of the hands as in the value range as well, but also a fair amount of bluffs. So what could those bluffs be?
The bluffs.
King Jack.
Flush draws. No, bluffs. Flush
So
draws.
so villains bluffs. So what do you think they're going to be? Yeah, I mean some flush draws.
Jack
But a
or
lot of the flush draws would you have to check call the shove. So what do you think about villain check folding range? I'm sorry, I mean raise fold range. So what could they be?
Like 10-8?
I don't really see how 10-8 calls the flop. How did that 10-8 from the flop? Doesn't make too much sense to me.
10-9. 10-9 is
so like any of the gut shots between the 9 and the 5 can like do a raise fold.
Like 8-7, 8-6, 7-6.
Yep.
with flush draws or no flush draw?
Without a flush draw.
With no flush.
Some other gut shots like Ace Jack at the top.
Oh yeah,
Can raise
Ace
fold. Yeah, so out of all these hands, these are pretty similar. But out of all of them, which one's is going to want to raise all in? Which one's going to raise or fold? Which is going to raise a call? Which is just going to call? All right, so probably the hand with the best blockers is Jacks. Okay.
That's why Jacks made sense as the razor fold to me.
Or raising.
Okay, so remember, the value range is basically only Jack 10 for the opponent. So there's not too much difference in terms of relative strength against your opponent's range between like a weak king and then pocket jacks. In fact, pocket jacks would rank higher than the weakest kings in your range, right? Because pocket jacks double blocks the nuts which he's raising.
Yeah,
for
no,
value.
that makes sense. If that's the case, then Jacks jams and King Jack razor folds.
What is the merit in jamming with Jacks?
Yeah, I think Jacks is just a razor call. I think the King Jack is a really good shove.
Yeah.
For the blocking reasons and the equity we have.
Yeah, good blockers, good equity when you get called.
Jack
remember there's not much stack left, so like you can be pretty liberal with the hands that you shove, just because if he was bluffing, then he has to call with some of those bluffs. Like if he's bluffing with a flush draw, he has to call.
And
so if you've got a hand like King Jack, it's nicer to shove that in instead of letting him decide on whatever rivers he wants to put the money in.
I think
So
Jack 10 is a call.
Jack 10 ends up becoming a call because it's just so strong. You're going to get shoved on the river almost all the time, or if not, you're going to shove yourself. And then that leaves Ace King as the raise or fold. So out of all of them, Ace King has got the worst blockers to the villains value range, and bluff range, despite the fact that it ranks higher than King Jack and Jack Jack. All right.
Question. If we were out of position, would Jack 10 jam?
Yeah, I mean, if we're out of position, a lot of hands would jam. I'd probably end up continuing my entire range as a jam.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough stack left. But when you're in position, you can kind of get away with calling some of the time and then playing the river. But like if you call, like the stack's 46 and the pot's 108. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. So here the set can shove the straight flats. But the important thing is looking at what the opponent's range is. We're thinking it is value, so it's a fair chunk of straights. They're 42.9% straights. So it becomes very important to try and block those straights. And there's a mix of other stuff. Your opponent can't be too polar, because then you end up just calling. And the opponent can't be too merged, because you end up just jamming. So yeah, they have to do a bit of a mix between being merged and non-merged. right? So that's why King Jack becomes pretty good, because it's got good blockers against the absolute nuts, but can also get called by some worse hands. Right. So it's not clearly for value because you only got 45% equity. It's not clearly as a bluff. But when you get the stack to pot ratio being this low, the distinction between value and bluffs becomes quite blurred. All right. So next one.
It's all in. Okay, so the procedure so far has been estimating villain's range by counting the values and bluffs and then solve. I think we have been doing this. Okay, so instead of just running to the answers, let's see what is his ranges, his value and his bluffs. His values are, of course, flush and queen, jack, maybe? I don't know.
Seems like aces might check back the turn here.
What bluffs he could have? He could have one spade in his hand. Offsuit ace. King 10 a diamond. Or some pairs. You should turn them to bluff.
It's challenging because the flush gets there.
Let's find his bluffs.
Ace of spades.
Yeah, ace of spade what? He should be floating off that has ace of a spade in it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't come up to that, but I could
Ace
see
of spade X. Ace of spade X. I think he couldn't have too many more bluffs than that.
So ace of a spade X. What kind of ace of a spade X check calls the flop? Anything? Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Like ace 10 of a spade.
Yeah.
You could have tiny bit of ace king. I don't know. Is ace king forwarding here all the time, guys?
The only offsuit aces he has is ace 10, ace queen, and ace jack.
Well, ace queen is not a. Yeah, well, that's right. Is ace king off always forwarding? I think so, huh? Or is it orange?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, ace king off always four bets, and then ace 9 and lower always folds.
Okay, so then ace 10 of a spade, that's the only possible bluff he could have with ace high. And the rest, do you guys agree, has to be a pair? Or king 10 of diamond, maybe. As a bluff.
He will have king 10.
We don't?
Offsuit with one spade.
Yeah, king 10 a diamond. What about that one?
That's a bluff because it's got the gutter and the back door on the flop.
Yeah.
It's hard to find bluffs.
They have to be paired then. This is my rule. Whenever it is hard to find bluffs for the guy, he has to have some pair turning them into bluffs.
Or what about a pocket pair?
It could be pocket pair like nines with 9 of a spade. Does
Yeah.
it make sense? So I'm just trying to come up to find his range, and then we go to the answers. Maybe this way we get less confused.
All right, so you've talked about bluffs. Now, what about value? So what hands do you think is going to be value?
Obviously, the flushes. He has many
Why
of them.
why would a flush jam here when they could instead raise smaller and then shove the river?
A weak
Maybe have
flush.
weak flush. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's,
a weak
it's the same sort of thing.
right.
Why would a weak flush do that? I don't,
Because
you're gonna have to convince me.
they don't want to see another spade
Right.
and get beaten by like a 10 of spades.
Usually the vulnerable hands choose larger size on the turn, which is I have seen the vulnerable value hands. Like the nut flush doesn't do this, but the small flush might do this. Also, guys, do you think he's gonna shove with sets because he doesn't want to see the fourth spade?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be more likely for him to be shoving a set or two pair than a flush because the likelihood of the fourth spade is higher with those hands. Much higher because you unblock the fourth spade versus when you've got a flush, you block the fourth spade.
Okay.
And having a flush is so strong when the flush doesn't come on the river, which is going to happen like 37 out of 44 of the time. You've got essentially the nuts, so you just very happy to call a shove or check shove yourself.
So flushes would if they're going to raise the turn, would raise smaller.
Like how much? Because
yeah, so it might raise smaller.
I don't think if smaller raise is possible here. Like if he's gonna raise 50% of the pot, this 36 plus 18 is 52. It is almost committed.
But is shove and a flush there the most EV play that he can do? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not. It's either going to be raising quite small and then shoving the river, or calling the turn and then don't lean the river, or check calling the river, whatever.
They'll want to play it over 3 streets.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say he has mostly 2 pair and sets, mostly that he does that. So we have narrowed down his value range to 2 pair and sets, and we somehow found his bluffs. So 2 pair and set he's shoving with. And the bluffs he has, ace 10 of a spade, plus pocket pair with 1 spade.
And there's also king 10 of spades.
You mean
king 10 with a single spade. All right, so yeah, knowing all of that.
All right.
So yeah, this is probably an easy one. What do you think is not within range?
Queen 7.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. It's just not strong enough. All right, what else is there?
I think ace king with the ace of spade is probably the call.
I think let's do the equity thing right now.
Well, yeah,
we have the range.
That's what I mean by the equity, because it's got the ace of spades, which blocks the nut flush, though that's not that relevant. But the aces without a spade,
I think we need the ace of a spade because we want to outdraw his value.
Yeah, that's why I think it's the call.
He had, of course, he had ace 10 of a spade, but mostly he has pocket pair with one spade as the bluff. So he doesn't have a lot of ace X with a spade as a bluff other than ace 10, I think so. Ace 10 somehow floats the flop. So ace king, we want to have it in our call range. So I don't know if it is a call or fold. Yeah, we got a call with that.
With the ace of spades. I think we call with the ace of spades.
Yes.
And the aces, it's probably call. They're probably kind of indifferent to that all in, but so it's probably call or fold.
Aces can outdraw his value range. He can counterfeit his two pair, and we
Yep.
could make higher set.
Yeah.
But queen 10 is kind of dead.
Yeah. Queen 10, I think, for the fold then. And that by elimination just leaves ace king and ace ace. And I think the ace of spades makes the call, and the ace ace is call or fold.
Wow. So hold on.
Yeah, so ace king is absolutely crushing the bluffs. It's doing okay against the value range. It's got how many outs? 9 plus
4.
3.
Yeah.
3. You don't want to double count the
Right.
10. So 12 outs, 12 out of 44, which was 27 point whatever earlier. But it's doing really well against the bluffs. So because of that, it becomes a call. Yeah, queen 10's too weak, and then aces can go either way. All right, this one. This one's a bit weird.
Oh, I'm going to do some listening here because this one made me want to stick a fork in my eye. So I'm going to listen because I was.
Let's come up to the range again, guys. I mean, his value and his bluffs, and then we narrow it down. I know this is kind of weird run out to have come up to bluffs, but let's find his values first. Do you agree his values is all ace X? He should do that.
You should jam a 10 too.
And a 10-2. Okay, so he's 10x and ace X.
10x makes a lot of sense.
Right. Check, check. He has a lot of ace 2 with this line. Okay, let's come up to the bluffs then. Wow, this is the hard time. I usually cannot find the bluffs here. Do you guys agree the bluffs has to be pair?
No, pairs are those are called boats.
Yeah.
So which unpaired hands call the flop?
King, queen, the gutters.
Yeah, all the gut shots. So all of them can be the bluffs.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the misstreets.
Okay. King, queen, queen, jack, king, jack, which are many of them.
Maybe
So
also stuff like 9-8 suited.
9-8 suited. It's kind of ambitious. I think we have enough floats with these Broadway hands on the flop because we gotta overfold. Overfold the flop. So I think his range is kind of, we know what is it now. 10x. Next. All right, now let's go. Check. Wow.
Does 9-10 check the turn?
Him? Yeah, he's not gonna. Oh, for us.
No, for us, yeah. That's a good question. I think so because look at the turn. Turn is a bad card for our range because you know what? He could have more trips than us.
That's true.
So we have to. Therefore, we have to create some checking range, check back range, and among these weak trips we have, 10-9 could be a check back. We could like bet king 10, but could check back 10-9 just because the turn is a bad card. I think ace 5 is a check back. Wow. One of them is not in the range.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm. That's
Okay, so we got a. So ace king diamond. Do you agree he has diamonds as float, but he doesn't have hearts as floats? Between ace king and ace queen.
Like, so the thing is, if he has the ace of if he has the ace of hearts.
No, let's say
gonna call.
king x of diamond. He has many of them, but he doesn't have queen x of heart. Many of queen x of heart.
That's a
Right.
minor factor.
Minor, okay.
I mean, the main thing that like we have to figure out what's not in the range here, right?
Yes, we want to do that now.
Okay, so ace 5 is, I think, a clear check back to me.
Me too.
Okay, I think that, man, I think
It has something to the suits between ace king and ace queen.
See, he could be bluffing with pocket pairs that all have made a house. That could be a lot of his bluffing range, right?
Okay.
Why do you think those hands would bluff?
He has worse hand to bluff. He has all the broadways to bluff with. I think they're enough. Because when he shoves all in, he's ripping a narrow range. We cannot have many bluffs anyway.
Yeah, they're not really like pocket pairs are houses. They're value, I guess. They're not.
I think he's not gonna have pocket pair as bluffs.
All right, so if he's got Broadway for his bluffs, which of these hands has got really shit blocker? So which of these hands blocks the bluffs the most?
Ace king blocks the bluffs the most. Ace king diamond, because it is blocking the backdoor diamonds that could be bluffing. But
like king.
Yeah, I mean all the king, queen, jack, jack 10, they're all going to float.
yeah.
And if they've got the backdoor diamond, they're more likely to raise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the raise. Oh.
But okay, so is villain more likely to shove queen jack or king queen?
Queen jack.
Queen jack, because king high is some showdown value.
And is villain more likely to shove queen jack or king jack?
Queen jack.
Yeah, queen jack, right? So the ace queen's not so good because they locked queen jack.
Mm-hmm.
So you fold ace queen.
Okay. What is not in the range? We got a bet ace king. Is that right?
Why would you check back 10-9 on the turn?
Because
yeah.
Because 10 is a bad card for our range, I think.
So I don't know.
If 10's a bad card for your range, villain can just lead the turn.
So, yes, some of the times, yes. Lead is small with the.
Here's the thing with 10. When you hit trips here on the turn, here, I think you're going to want to get it in over 2 streets or instead of 1, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
then that's right. We could check back ace king, right? So 10-9 is in the range. I was wrong. We should check some of the ace highs then to protect.
Okay, so now what's the difference between these two? These hands here?
Blocking the 5.
All or fold.
Is blocking a 5 relevant?
No. I think ace 5 is a better call than ace.
Wait. He might bluff a king.
Yep. All right, there you go. So that's what the range looks like. So in terms of the top pair, There's ace five with the club is pretty good because you specifically block ace 10 of clubs, which you could be jamming. But yeah, it's not a huge thing. But basically, queen's not so good, jack's not so good because you block queen jack, which is in the shoving range, and you might shove a king as well. So that's why ace king is a little bit less favorable to call than the other ace x. And that's what the checking range looks like on the turn. Basically, all of your trips will bet.
Okay.
And if you want to trap, you should trap a house. Specifically ace 10, because you really want them to catch up and make their straight. So, yeah, that's why you have ace 10 then. Also with 10-5.
Great.
Any question about that? Yeah, this is what the betting range looks like. So basically betting quite frequently on this turn. A lot of their trips and stuff. All right, this one.
All right, jacks has to go smaller size on the flop. Or check. Right? Yeah. Jack's not in range. Has to go smaller size on the flop.
Why do you think jack's not in range?
I think it has to go smaller size on the flop or check.
No, that's not necessarily true. I mean, you might bet this size sometimes.
Let's find Villan's range again. This is the same line happening over and over, or either check shove or check raise on the turn. We bet.
Yeah, so jacks is not within range, but it's. I mean,
On the
yeah,
turn.
sure. It doesn't. It wants to check the flop, but if it bets the flop, it's
Yeah, I was
definitely
going to
check back.
continue, by the way. Then the turn has to do something else. Yeah. You just block too much. So hear me out. Does kings make quite a nice? Does the king queen, sorry, make quite a nice call? Because you just probably have enough equity, and you might have good overs.
All right, so you got to think about what the value range is and what the bluff range is.
Yeah.
So if the villain is bluffing with the ace of club X, it makes our king queen of clubs.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. That's true.
What's the difference equity wise between ace 5 and 6-6? 6-6 the better gutter.
We gotta know his range. What is he shoving with as value? 5-4.
He could have 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, maybe not 10s.
Could he check raising Jack X? If he's check raising Jack X, then Ace 5 is better than 6-6. Because how many outs we have versus Jack X? With 6-6, we have
6 outs instead of 5 outs with ace 5.
Okay, so we have a gutter too, right? Okay. So do you agree that he could check raise with Jack X as value? And then we go to his bluffs too. We established check raising comes from more vulnerable hands. Like if he had the nut straight like ace 3, he's not gonna do that probably. So he has flush draws as bluffs.
Yeah, combo draws.
Combo draws, and as value, could have 2 pair, like 5-4, and a lot of Jack X. Like Ace Jack, he's not gonna fold Ace Jack here, or maybe King Jack. And Jack X of club, Jack X club. So anyway, it is Jack X. It's mostly. Do you agree? It is top pair heavy. His check raise range.
Is he calling with 4s on the flop? Because he's got
Yes.
back 4s.
He could be. Yeah, could be calling with 4s. Because I see 4s have higher equity than 9s versus our value range. So he could have 4s for sure. So he has a set, 2 pair, 5-4. What kind of other 2 pair he has other than 5-4? I don't see anything else. It's the 3-bet
Jack
pot.
5 suited. Jack 5 suited.
He's not gonna call the 3-bet with. He's gonna call with 3-bet with Jack 5 suited.
I'll check, but I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
No, he doesn't.
No, I think the threshold's around like Jack 8 or Jack 7.
Yeah, Jack 8 is.
Oh, yeah.
Raise
Okay.
call for it.
Okay,
So-
sorry about that.
The question is that Jack 7 of club, is he gonna do that? Probably. It is good to see how he played, like Ace Jack of club and Jack 7 of club. This is the thing. Ace Jack of club is gonna call more often, but Jack 7 of club is gonna raise more often.
Jack 7 is.
What about hands like 6-5 and 6-4 suited?
You could turn them into a bluff, maybe? I don't think so. He has
6-5 and 6-4. They have.
All right. So what are you guys thinking? So king queen. Which one? Call, fold, call, fold.
let me see. Call fold. King Queen he beats his value. He could outdraw the Jack X. So it's a call. Because he can outdraw the value that he has a lot of Jack X in there and dominates the flush draws he could have, maybe.
It's like the earlier 10-9 suited, isn't it?
Not quite.
Yeah.
No,
No. So the trick is, if you want to call with a draw against these jams, you have to be ahead of enough of the bluffs. All right. And so, what do you think he's bluffing with?
Combo draws. Like
And
suited
flush
pairs.
Flush draws like 7-6 of club.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would have. I don't know how it gets here, but if it wants to get here, it would embrace the flop. So like, it doesn't.
Okay.
Can't suddenly have 76 clubs if it can't call the flop with it.
He's definitely with the ace. The ace, ace X suited.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ace X that you could have.
So it
those
kind
hands could raise here. So you get crushed by them. So you lose against the bluffs.
We do call fold. Wow.
You're just drawing very, very thin against the bluffs, so it's not so good. If he's bluffing the nut flush draw, basically, then you're only drawing to your 6 outs or whatever.
Well, if he has ace 3, you're fucked.
Yeah, well, we already established that he's not going to shove ace 3. So,
Mhm.
And then these two, like, what's the difference?
We said he has a lot of ace in his bluff range, so ace 5 is a less.
No, it's still a lot of nut flush draw, not just random aces.
Okay,
Um,
not flush draw.
I think
the trick is it important to be blocking the 5? Does it do this with the set of 5s?
No, but he does it with 5-4.
Yeah, I don't think he does it with either hand because both of them block your 5x, and so they're more likely to face a shove in the river. So here the 5 isn't super relevant. So 6s is just stronger than ace-5.
Yeah.
So here I'll show you the same. This is what it's shoving with. So shoving with a 4, yeah, that's fine. Not shoving with a 5 because if you did manage to bet a 5 here on the turn, which you don't really, some of them, you're always going to check back the river. So having the set of 5s or 5-4 ends up blocking the check back range on the river, and so you're more likely to be bet into when you've got a set of 5s, which is nice, and 5-4, which is also pretty good. In terms of the hands which might shove for value, yeah, the weaker sets, and then like ace jack. I'm not sure why you would want to shove a top pair weaker than that, because the whole point of here shoving here is a little bit of equity now, but also getting called by worse. So it is necessary to get called by worse when you make these plays with these shoves. The bluffing range looks like this. So here king queen blocks these two weaker bluffs, and then you just get crushed by the nut flush draw. So not only does it block bluffs, it also loses to bluffs. So just king queen's not very good. Yeah, jack's not within range because it doesn't bet here for this size. It goes a bit smaller, it checks. Same thing on the flop. So it's the top set's got to check somewhere. All right, last one is very similar to the second one we did. No, this one, third one. Very similar, except instead of betting, we check. Instead of betting get jammed on, we check and then get jammed on.
So the king 8 not in the range, because we're gonna have to bet the turn.
Yeah, very good.
That's right. What are his bluffs? His bluffs are busted spades. That's his bluffs. And a lot of his bluffs.
Busted straights.
Busted straight, yes. His value is what? Ace 9, pocket 10s, and trip kings.
Say that again.
His value is ace is 9x, or I don't know, jack or pocket 10s and trip kings. These are his values.
He doesn't have jacks.
Why, he 4-bets them or check raises them?
Yeah, 4-bets.
Okay, so pocket 10s is a thin value with.
Jacks plus is always 4-bet, and 10s is like mostly 4-bet.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. If someone can check that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And then
I don't think we have to worry about the kings as much because I'm not sure he would go all in like those other questions. It's probably more EV to
check jam.
check jam, or yeah. I don't think that he would shove with trip kings.
That's an interesting thought. I don't know. Maybe.
I think there's more EV in checking them, or maybe not even betting small, like check and jam.
But what are we gonna bet again if he checks his trip kings?
Didn't he bet all his kings on the turn?
Because we didn't bet all our kings on the turn. If he checks to us, we gotta bet our 9s. We check back the turn, so we don't have any king.
Right.
So if he checks again, we're gonna bet our 9s, and then he should check jam on us. So we don't have a lot of betting range on the river. I think he should jam with some of his kings at least.
You could jam with ace nine.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying maybe we should. What else is he jamming with? He's very polar once he does that.
Why would he jam with ace nine? I don't know.
Because
If he's got ace nine, he blocks your ace high, which checks back. So
Yeah.
probably not a good idea to do that. Just better to check it. Okay, so here villains are being mostly king for value, and so what are they going to be bluffing with? That's the main question.
king queen.
No, what are they going to be bluffing with?
Oh,
So
the
king queen
bluff.
is for value definitely, but what's the bluffing range?
The flush draws and the straight draws, the spades.
Yeah, so out of all these hands, which hand's good in terms of blockers?
10-9
Ace queen doesn't block the bluffs.
doesn't block the bluffs. True.
Would he bluff with queens and tens because they block the kings?
He doesn't have queens.
You need to be specific with which combos you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, if he's got Jack 10 somehow, actually no, Jack 10's a gotcha on the flop. So he's got Jack 10, then definitely be shoving some of them.
Shit.
All right, so all these are basically bluff catchers because they're in between the value range, which is the kings, and the bluffs. So the only thing that matters is the blockers that you've got.
So
is he going to his bluffs has more busted flush draws or more busted straight draws? If he has more busted flush draws, then 10-9 of heart is better.
So he's going to use a mix of them both in order
Mix.
to be more difficult for you to be able to make that decision.
So
Because at some point, this queen of diamond, 7 of spade is blocking his king X, but at the same time, it has a spade in it.
yeah, but that's a pair though. That spade is a pair. Like he's
Yeah,
not
but they're-
bluffing. He's not bluffing 7-8 of spades.
I know, but oh, okay, right. That's right. That's right. So
7, 6 of spades
that's
or whatever.
irrelevant.
So at this point, we're sort of deciding which blockers are the most relevant, right?
Yes.
Now
And-
what's
And there's also like above that, if blockers are more relevant than strength, right? So that's another question.
Yeah. So queen 7, I think, is a fold. It has nothing in there.
Yes, often when you're facing very polar bets, the blockers that you have is going to be more relevant than your relative hand strength.
So then ace queen would be the logical call then, because it unblocks the most.
So what's the difference between ace queen and queen 7 then?
Well, queen 7, it blocks spade bluffs. And
All the spade bluffs are would have a pair, so that's not very relevant.
well, queen 7 doesn't block aces.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, so if he's got a pair, that could do it, maybe, I don't know.
but aces wouldn't bet, right?
So queen 7 sort of unblocks his bluffs a bit.
He will have more aces in his bluff combination. So we want to block an aces against the 7. We prefer the ace in our
So-
range.
Is this a spot where ace high bluffs?
No, with ace high, he don't bluff. So
then
we
you
want
wanna
to
catch.
have ace high.
Oh, maybe I'm missing the point about unblocking aces with queen 7.
I think ace queen might be the fold.
He have few seven
queen.
in his range, so we prefer to block an ace against.
Yeah,
block a
there isn't much difference. So when you have to decide, then you can decide the relative hand strength. So there's not too much difference. I mean, the ace can slightly block some bluffs he could have if he's not
Which
playing
one?
so well. But yeah, this one's a fold because it just the 10 is not so great.
It blocks 10-8, right? Yeah, okay.
So which of
Wow.
there's not too much difference between these two hands, honestly. Probably shouldn't have made it so thin. The difference, but yeah, there's not much difference between ace queen and queen 7 because the blockers are very similar. The ace does slightly block some potential bluffs you could have. If I run this a bit, let's see what happens when I do
Which
this.
bluffs? Ace high bluffs?
There you go. Ace queen calls, also queen 7 calls. They both end up calling. I should probably change it, but yeah, they're not very different actually. They're the same. But basically, this is what the shoving range looks like here. Trips, bit of weird stuff.
He shoved his ace 9. Was it?
No, we wouldn't really shove with ace 9 very often.
Okay.
But mainly you got to look at the bluffs.
Oh, they all have a 10.
And having a 10 is not so great.
Right.
That's why 10-9, pretty nice to fold. Queen is a bit better because it does block a little bit more of the value as well. Just in terms of the shoving range. Bit of king queen for value. A little bit of queen 9 as well. But doesn't really block the bluffs they could have because all the queen X bluffs are the flush draw. All right, so I probably shouldn't have put those two in there. The two similar. All right. So hopefully we put them all down correctly. Any questions about all these? So we mainly went through like either getting check raised on the turn or check back and getting shoved on the river. It's important to know these because then you can know how to check raise properly, because if you know that your opponent's not defending properly, then you can take advantage of that. And in the check line of the turn, you can just pile money in on the river, knowing that your opponent's not going to defend very well, because we've just gone through how hard it is to defend properly. Yeah. So any questions?
I need to go. So
yeah, no, thank you very much, guys and Thomas.
All right, guys. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to turn the recording off now. People who will watch at home. Thanks for watching.
Sure.